Alright, so back to this yet again, making another video sooner than I anticipated. I've only watched, and again, as you can see by the title, right, it's another Kakegurui, or not fucking, another video, right, but again, it's another Kakegurui video, but again, I only watched 2 more episodes, so, damn, is this guy good? Never mind, ignore that. I'm in my car. For context, and someone's like pulling up right next to me. It's a tiny spot though, so hopefully we don't get hit. Anyway, that's besides the point. So anyway, but I really didn't, right? Again, so I've only been through a total of 4 episodes. I made the first original video on Kakegurui Twin on how it's a fever dream. Then I made the last video after only having watched the first 2 episodes. And again, that one was on again, bridging the gap, Brian, connecting the 2, right? And then kind of going, not just chronologically in the storyline, but also in the notable characters, right? Again, because now that we know that Kakegurui Twin is a prequel, and again, something I'm still grateful and thankful I watched that first, because I feel like, again, that's a unique perspective that most people wouldn't have who had just watched it, right? So, at least in terms of that, right? Again, it's something to where, again, that's what that comes down to. But again, right? So after watching these, again, next 2 episodes, I decided to make yet another video, right? Or I was motivated to again. That's why I said I was thinking I'd wait at least until episode 6. But this is also another kind of video that I can make without needing to really watch the episodes, right? As the first one I made was more on bridging the gap. So it was focused on events that happened in between. And this is pure, like, theory craft, pure speculation, right? And as you can tell by the title of this video, you know, Kakegurui, you know, how to survive and thrive, right? I don't even know the school's name. Like, I legit don't. I'm just going to say, like, the world of Kakegurui, right? How to survive and thrive in the world of Kakegurui. Because that's something to where, just having watched Kakegurui Twin in just the first 4 of, again, Kakegurui, I feel like I have enough info to kind of talk about it, right? And again, it's mostly theory crafting, speculation, and again, the one I made after the first 2 was mostly, again, talking about the in-between as well, so it's like, there's still, again, what'll still happen is honestly, this may actually be the last video I make before, the end of Season 1, so what it may come down to is that, again, the next video I may make may be after Season 1, right, like, kind of a Season 1, you know, thoughts and opinions, you know, wrap-up, you know, what would you call it, wrap-up, catch-up type deal. So that's something to where I still anticipate I'll make that after Season 1. But this, again, for the rest of, like, because then I'll go over more, like, story, plot, stuff like that, right? You know, but as opposed to the last one, which was, again, the in-between, this is more so just, like, theory crafting, speculation. So these 2 may be the only ones I make until that Season 1 video. And then after I finish Season 2, obviously, I'll probably do, like, kind of a comparison as well as a, I can do kind of like a comparison video between the 2 seasons, right? Go over them. I can also do, like, again, you know, just a pure Season 2 video as well. And then I can kind of probably even do, like, a future video, right? You know, like, future, okay, like, what now, right? Since clearly it doesn't lead into Kakegurui Twin, because Kakegurui Twin is the prequel. So, yeah, but that's honestly kind of the rest of, I guess, the plans for, again, this show. But as for this video, right, because it's already been, nearly 4 minutes. Again, as for this video, right, what that comes down to is, again, so for this video, talking about it, again, how to survive, yeah, let's actually get into the video. So, how to survive and thrive in the world of Kakegurui, right? Again, I don't know the name of this school, but I feel like if you read the title, right, you know, it kind of implies. But I guess let's just get that out of the way. First things first, we're implying you're going to the school, right? You know, if you're not in the school, it's literally just a normal fucking life you're living, right? You know, you're living in a normal world. Like, I mean, for all we know, it could literally be our world, like our universe, just the only change is that one school exists and people go to it, right? So, again, the first things first, we're assuming it's almost kind of implied that you're going to that school, right? The gambling school. So just, again, let's get that out of the way. So there's no, like, secret, oh, you survive by not going to it. You know, you're going to the school, right? The admissions and enrollment got your ass, right? So, again, that's the baseline, right? background and context, right? So there's that. So there's no getting out of that. You're going to the school. So, but from there onwards, how to survive and thrive. I'm splitting this up into two parts because I believe there's fundamentally a difference between what you need to do or want to do, right? If you want to survive versus wanting to thrive, right? As I'll say, survive is inherently a defensive mechanism or maneuver there, while thrive is fundamentally or inherently a more offensive one, more offensive mechanism or maneuver. So we'll go into survive first, and then we'll talk about thrive, right? So, because again, yeah, that's a good, as opposed to just like, oh, just do this, as opposed to it being kind of, a one set fits all, right? Or, one shape fits all, right? Instead, it depends on what you fundamentally want out of it, if that makes sense. So we'll go over survive first, then thrive. And then again, right, even for survive, it kind of depends on what you view as surviving. Because surviving, there's kind of two ways you can view it. And this is the furthest down we're going to go, right, the chain. We're not just going to keep dividing things in sets of two, but there's kind of two ways you can view it. Two ways you can view, and again, it just depends on you, right? Fundamentally what you want. Like, there's kind of two ways you can view survival. The first way you can view survival is not becoming a pet. I mean, it's quite simple enough. And the reason for this, and I'll talk about this more in the thriving section, is so long as you're not a pet, it seems like you don't get treated like shit, right? There seems to be very few differences among non-pets, with, again, the notable exception of either you being a student council member, which they're only like, let's be real, they're only like 5, 6, or 7. So we're not assuming your end goal is to, again, right, become a student council member. Or, again, if you're like the president of a club or something. But then that complicates things and introduces things such as like debts and fees and dues and stuff like that to student council. So we'll talk more about that in the thrive section if you want to go. But if your goal is pure survival, just so, again, right, and if you view that, right, as just simply, again, not becoming a house pet, as there's very few differentiators, very few, what would you call it, like, distinguishers, there's very few differences with a few notable exceptions among non-house pets. So if that's how you view survival, right, if that's how you view survival and that's what you fundamentally want, again, in that school, right, or in that school, right, then the solution for that and what you need to do to survive is to simply not gamble more than you owe, right, or not gamble more than you have. I mean, it sounds stupid, and it sounds like, again, such a simple thing, but again, right, it's just, because I'm not going to say don't gamble at all, because, again, if that's the case, why go to that school? But it's like, if your simple goal is to survive and you view that as fundamentally not becoming a house pet, just simply don't gamble more than you owe. I mean, again, it's like, then you'll never become a house pet, because it's something to where, okay, or not gamble more than you owe. Don't gamble more than you have, because then you'll never owe more than you have and need to become a pet to pay it off. Again, they also introduced a ranking system, but as opposed to try to game the ranking system, because chances are the people who end up becoming mittens end up owing a ton anyway. In fact, I think the way it works is that most people, like, even if they don't become a mitten, still owe some, right? But it's like, so long as you don't owe more than you have, like, as opposed to being like, oh, I need to worry about not being the bottom 100, just don't owe more than you have. And by doing that, simply just don't bet more than you have, right? So I feel like, again, that's getting out of the way. And it's, again, it sounds, stupid. It sounds simple, but that's the solution, right? Just don't, right? I mean, again, but and the reason why, again, I'm getting this one out of the way real quick and why this is so short is because if that's the case, then you just may as well as not gamble. And if you don't gamble, you may as well just not go to that school. So it's something to where that's the lure. That's the trap, right? They get you by, again, drawing you deeper and deeper, right? That's how gambling works. So, again, right? It's hard to do because you're, again, of constant temptation to keep on going, right? That's gambling. But it's like, and again, it's something to where it's like, if you're going to a gambling school, right? But something to where if that's how you view survival, then just simply, again, then simply don't become a house pet, right? Or if that's how you view survival, not becoming a house pet, just don't gamble more than you have. It's that simple. And with that, again, but that's only one of the two parts of survival, again, depending on how you fundamentally view it. Like, again, right? If that's how you fundamentally view survival, then just don't, right? You know, but again, you can set the bar even lower, and this is kind of what I'm getting to, right? So, again, to survive in the school, right? It's something where that's only one, that's if you view survival fundamentally as that. But if you view survival as fundamentally like baseline survival, like literally like surviving, aka just not dying, then again, in order to ensure survival there, it's actually not that difficult. Because here's what I'm trying to get to, right? In very rare instances, are there actually, again, you know, is your life actually in danger, right? I mean, obviously, let's say if you gamble all your money away, become a house pet, you know, it's degrading, right? Humiliating, right? But I'd say very rarely, again, is there a chance, and it's mentioned in Kakegurui Twin, very rarely, you know, is there actually like any threat to your life or physical like well-being. It's all mental and then all monetary as well, right? With the debt you owe. So if you view survival as, again, fundamentally just not dying and basically just making it through, you know, because obviously it's a normal fucking classroom during the day, but then they have their fucking gambling rings, right? So if you're just, okay, I'm just going to bite the bullet and make it through, you know, I don't care what happens, I just want to get through it, right? And you view survival as just that, again, baseline kind of like fundamental, just not dying as opposed to, oh, not becoming a house pet, then you really don't need to worry. Granted, the one caveat was the scene in Kakegurui where, again, and this is why I'm mentioning it after episode 4, where the one dude tried to make, God, I don't even remember her name. I still don't remember her name. Again, tried to make the main protagonist essentially like stripped down, and then he'd kind of have his way with her. So I'd say, again, right, it's like, but then again, that one girl with like the eye patch and the fucking revolver like intervened and it became like weird. So, but that was also something to where, again, you know, I really think the protagonist could have talked their way out of that one by offering to play like some sort of game, right? Like gambling, you know, strip game, right? You know, play like strip poker or something, right? Make it fun, you know, as opposed to just like, oh, strip down for me. Oh, you can fucking like, I mean, come on. It's like, you can fucking find that shit online. But it's like, obviously, if he was going to have his way with her, different story. But again, I honestly think she could have talked her way off that one, but she tried to stand up, and again, then the fucking eye patch revolver girl had to intervene. And then she nearly fucking, like, literally played Russian roulette with herself. That shit was crazy. But again, beyond, and that's why I say most of the time, you know, most of the time your physical well-being isn't in danger, right? So if you just view survival as that baseline fundamental, like not dying, you know, and your physical well-being, again, is very rarely, you know, anything actually happens, right? It's all mostly monetary and mental, but very rarely is there actual, like, what's it called? I guess physical consequence, right? Or very rarely there's, again, your physical well-being's in danger. Then you don't need to worry, again. And this would also, I think it's even, what was it called? The one, like, male protagonist who was formerly a Lebo or whatever. Again, he even mentioned that, like, oh, you know, if you're I guess that's something that happens to females, right? You know, female mittens or whatever. So honestly, I'd say if you're a male, you probably, you get some weird fucking like female like stepping all over you, right? But it's like, again, I'd say if you're male, you have to worry about it less. Like if you're female, you'd probably have to worry about it more. But it's also something to where the fucking protagonist could have probably talked her way out that one. And there's also things such as, oh, you know, not going down like random alleyways with people, right? Staying in public areas, because even though you're going to get more humiliation and more, you know, what would you call it, degradation there, it'll all be mental. No one's going to like fucking physically like assault you like in a group of people, right? Like that's not a flex. Like people just aren't going to do that. So in before it happens later in the show. But that's again, right? That's so if, again, just kind of recapping, if you view survival as that fundamental like sort of baseline, okay, not dying, right? You know, and again, like even if you're a house pet, right? Very rarely is your physical welfare in danger. It's all just mental and monetary. And again, in the situations to where it is, it's either something to where you probably could have avoided it, or you, like, by again, just not, like, staying in public areas is a big thing. And then also, again, what's it called? You could honestly probably talk your way out of it, right? I honestly think the protagonist could have, but, like, offer to play a strip game, right? Make it fun. Like, bitch, if I were the dude, I'd fucking take it. I'd be like, bitch, may as well make it fun, bud. Again, right? Something to where it's like, again, that's just for the case of this show. And if you view, you know, survivals like, you know, if you just want to survive, you don't want to thrive. If you want to survive, and rather than view survive as, again, not being a house pet, you instead view it as more fundamental baseline, not dying, then you don't really need to worry. And what I'm going to get into now before I move on to thrive is that what we see is, because there's always the possibility or always the question of, oh, what if you go too far in debt, right? What if you gamble all your money away, go in debt, and then, you know, dig yourself a hole to where you can't climb back out of? Because that's always the question. What then? We see, and this happens to Mary, and this is why I'm making this video after episode 4. We see that basically if you gamble away enough, gamble yourself into enough debt to where you can't possibly pay it back, then basically what happens is the student council, okay, good, it's going, something popped up on the screen, so pretty much what ends up happening there is that, hold on, also let me charge my phone. It's on like 0 battery, so apologize about that. There we go. But it's something to where, again, we see basically she gets put into an arranged marriage. I mean, basically she has her life sold out by the student council. Now, again, we see, she gets an arranged marriage with a politician's son, similar to Little Witch Academia, right? She has 3 kids, and then they grow up successfully. That's literally her life's plan. Because she gambles herself into, like 50 million yen? Enough debt to the point where she has no hope to pay it back, right? To where she can't, again, even pay it back, even begin to start. And they basically, again, plan out the rest of her life for her. Basically sell her to a politician, right? He puts her with his son, and they have kids, right? They have 3 kids. You know, I'm not going to lie, that's a pretty cush life. You know, and again, we know the reason why Mary rejects it is, again, specifically because of that autonomy, right? She wants autonomy and agency over her own life, which is why she rejects it and why she can't go through with it. Me, my lazy ass would go through with it. Bitch, I'd say, hell yeah, I'll be a house fucking husband for a rich, like, politician wife and have, like, you know, 3 successful kids of my own. There's no choice, none of that autonomy or agency involved. Still pretty cush life. It's also you're still very powerful there. And also, again, it's, if you view it as that fundamental baseline survival thing, then honestly, like, in just not dying, you really have nothing to worry about, right? Now, obviously, you can get, I guess, a worse fate, right? I mean, we saw the main protagonist. I think her fate was, again, getting shipped off and married with someone else, but there was no, like, further plan. So she may just get married off to, let's say, you know, just some random Joe, right? Some random dude, you know, so not as cush as the politician, right? But again, it's still something to where if you just view it as that, then, again, there's really nothing to worry about. The only real thing you have to worry about is if you just don't want to be a house pet, then just don't gamble more than you have, and you'll never be one. But if you really just take it down to the nitty gritty and just view it as like, I just want to fucking get through this, I don't care what happens, I just want to survive, then you've got nothing to worry about. And that's where I'm going to end it for the survive portion, because again, it's about 20 minutes. Now we can move on to the thrive, because I think this is more interesting, but there's almost kind of less to go over. So again, let's move over to the thrive portion, right? So how to thrive. Again, and this is where I talked about, right? Because I'm discluding the whole student council thing, right? As there's only like 5, 6, or 7 members. So excluding the student council, pushing those out. For thrive, this can, let's say, again, like I mentioned earlier, oh, you want to be president of a club, then you need to take into consideration like dues, fees, and then dues, fees, you know, Jesus Christ, what's it called? Like dues and fees, again, to a student council. Or if, let's say, you want to have servants of your own, like mins of your, or fucking, house pets of your own, And like, again, or like just people working for you, right? They don't necessarily have to be house pets, because we see that again with Mary in the very start, where she has originally like 20 people working for her or something. If that's what your goal is, to thrive, again, we're excluding the student council. We're putting the bar there. We're assuming you, again, just because there's, again, such a small amount, and we're assuming you can't get it there anyway. If you want to thrive and do well, then your best bet is to play the odds. And basically what I mean is, don't try to game the system. I guess, don't try to game, not necessarily game or rig the system, but again, play the odds. And what this means is play the probability, play the math, right? This is why, because besides, again, besides programmers who can make like bots to fucking like buy and sell stocks and shit like that, it's all the math people who do the best, because they know the odds and they know the probability. They set it up into such a way to where they'll always, make gains, right? That's your best bet if you really want to survive and thrive, right? Or if you really want to thrive. Because obviously we know that cash is king. Gambling's everything, right? That's, again, just fundamentally what it comes down to. You need cash if you want to open up a club to pay dues and fees to a student council. If you want to, let's say, have people of your own, servants of your own, again, you need to have that in order to have power over them. So, again, right, in terms of that, that's just what that comes down to. So it's like, again, it's just something to where it's like, if that's what you want, right, then you need to, again, right, basically get the money to do that. And the best way to get the money, there is, again, just by, rather than trying to game the system, rig the system, instead, your best bet is to try to, again, game the odds, right? Game the probability, right? Again, do the math behind it. So, again, focus on the math rather than the actual, again, cheating, I'd say. And then you'll make more than you lose. Again, it's something to where you're not going to make the most. You're not going to be a student council member. But it'll be enough to where, again, right, you can pretty much just do what you want and have autonomy and agency there, right? More than just beyond the basic, survival. And again, so let's say you open a gambling den, right? You have a game, right? That's, again, it doesn't even need to be cheating. You just need to game the probability, right? Again, we're not focused on rigging the system, gaming the system, like basically cheating. We're focused on rigging and gaming the odds, the probability, right? So that, again, mathematically speaking, you'll always come out with gains over losses. Obviously, you can try to rig the game, cheat the system. But again, the issue with that being, if you get caught, then you have no fallback. Versus if you just set it up fundamentally to where you're going to make more gains than losses, right? Then you have nothing to worry about, right? And it's something to where, again, it's not going to make you the most, not going to put you on the student council. But if you open that den and then set up that way, that should be more than enough for you to start your own club. And especially if you have like members pay fees and dues, something like that, which then goes up, it works out. And then, again, also something to where, if again, you do end up getting like servants, right, and you have them, again, do like kind of stuff for you, not like, because obviously people are like, I just go straight to sexual thoughts, right? No, if you have them actually like, help you with your fucking, like, again, right? If you have them help you with your gambling den and stuff like that, right? You can really make it profitable. And again, if it's something to where if you just want, you can expand, but then you have more of a risk of, again, because then it depends on how greedy you get. You have more of a risk of things slipping through, right? The tighter you grasp, the more spills through. And then you have more of a risk of just trying to outright cheat or rig the system or game the system as opposed to, again, game the odds and the probability. So I really think if you want to thrive and just overall do well, not be at the very top, not be on the student council, but if you just want to thrive and have enough autonomy and agency to, let's say, kind of start your own club, be present, have your own servants, right? Because people will inevitably come into your club and gamble themselves into debt or into your gambling den. Just set up the one gambling den, focus on gaming the odds and the probability, not the actual, not the actual game itself. Like, don't rig or cheat the game. Don't do that to the system, right? do it to the odds and the probability, because that's something to where if you just set it up that way fundamentally, to where the odds, again, to where mathematically speaking, you'll always make gains over losses and the odds are in your favor there, then there's no worry about someone potentially figuring out, right? Because you're not actually fucking cheating, right? Again, you're just setting up the probability to where, you come out on top. As opposed to if you game or cheat, where there'll always be that, again, risk of, oh, what if someone finds out? Oh, what happens then, right? And then your whole operation blows up. Obviously, again, and like I mentioned, if you want to go above and beyond, then that's where it depends on how much greed you're willing to take on. Because let's say you open up more gambling dens. Then again, you're more likely, and again, the more you grasp, the more slips through, right? Again, or harder you grasp, the more slips through. It's something to where, again, more likely are you going to try to, fall back on cheating in order to, again, make them profitable. And then if it blows up, then all of a sudden, okay, what happens, right? And then especially if the further up you go, the more tension, right? So that's why I'm saying, and this is probably what I would do if I were in the show, I probably wouldn't be going to the fucking school. And if I were in the school, I'd probably just not gamble more than I have, because my baseline would probably be just not being a mitten or not being a Lido or whatever they call the male versions. But if you want to just thrive, and this is where I'm going to end the video because it's been 26 minutes, just open a gambling den, set it up to where the odds and the probability work out in your favor. Mathematically, you'll make more than you lose. You'll get gains there. You have people come in, inevitably people may win some, but so long as the house comes out on top, right? Some people may win some people may lose some, but so long as the house comes out on top, it doesn't matter. People inevitably gamble themselves into debt and they can become your servants, right? And you can go on and start your own club and make that, your club area. So basically you just have your one room, right? That's a gambling den that serves as the club area. You can have whatever club you want in there, right? Doing stuff. You can have your servants. And that probably puts you in the top, let's say 5% of the school, 5-10% of the school, realistically. Because if we're assuming how many people are in the school? I think it was what was it? The bottom 100 are the fucking house pets. Isn't it 400? I think it's about 400. It's something to where, again, if you look at it this way, then you really don't need to worry, right? Again, there's the chance that, let's say people find out, but if you just set up the game fundamentally to where you make more wins than losses, that's not cheating. You're not, again, you don't need to worry about getting blown up for cheating, right? And that blowing up in your face. Even if a student council member finds out, what they do is they probably fucking walk up and be like, hey, I respect it. So long as you're paying your dues and fees, we'll let the operation continue. Because that's what they rely on, right? People not wanting to become house pets. So it's honestly something to where, and this is where I'm going to end it, because now it's actually been, 28? So that's just your best bet, right? It's really not that difficult to survive and thrive in the school, right? You just need to be smart. Because what ends up happening is people make too many risks or too great of a risk. They find themselves in debt, and then all of a sudden it's scrambling to pay it off. And in doing so, they take more risks. Again, it's a downward cycle. It compounds, right? That's why preventing yourself from ending up in such a situation to begin with is basically the key to success there, right? And then not just going willy-nilly with your money, right? Again, not taking that unnecessary risk. Because again, one risk can jeopardize your everything, right? Because all of a sudden, you gamble more than you thought you had, you're in debt. How do you pay it off? Again, you need to gamble more to potentially not become a house pet. All of a sudden, you're deeper in debt. It's just a downward spiral. It compounds. And again, that's why, starting off with a game plan and starting off smart, and approaching it from that way, as opposed to just kind of diving head first, right? That's really the way to go. And it's something to where it's with that, it's just, granted, but beyond that, and this is actually where I'm going to end it off, I'm only 4 episodes deep, so I'm genuinely curious to see where it goes. And again, it is something to where it's actually interesting in terms of, okay, let's see what ends up happening there, right? Again, we'll see what, because again, right, 2 more seasons, the rest of season 1, season 2, again, we'll see what happens, right? And we know that Kakegurui Twin's a prequel, so there's no like ending to that. It just connects into the show. But again, Kakegurui itself is, again, right, could have an ending. You know, maybe it ends with the council being destroyed. Who knows? Honestly, that'll probably be a season after I watch episodes 5 and 6. I'll kind of make some predictions for the show, and then we'll just kind of see how they are. But with that, for this video, that's all for this video. It's been 30 minutes. I went over how to survive and thrive, again, and really just the big things. You have a game plan and you know what you want. And then that way you can avoid any sort of unnecessary risk that puts you, again, that comes from a gambling school, that would put you in a situation where, okay, all of a sudden you're in uncontrollable debt. But with that, I'm getting it there. I don't have anything else. So, yep, that's it for this one. See you in the next one.